Hi, my name is Chantel. Me and my fellow group mates, Caitlin, Shay, and Taylor, are here to talk about a particular approach in teaching within early learning and childcare called the Reggio Emilia approach. There will be a couple of topics in which we will be covering in this video. These topics include the overview of the approach and its key elements, the importance of this approach within early learning and childcare, what the role is for the educator in the approach, what parts of the approach we would use and not use in our practice and why, how the main idea in the Alberta Curriculum Framework link and connect to our approach, and lastly, an example of a play-based experience based on our approach. So, grab a snack and get comfy as we're about to go into a journey to what a Reggio Emilia-based classroom might just look like. You might be wondering, what is the Reggio Emilia approach about? Well, let's start off with the basics, which is the overview of the approach and its key elements. The Reggio Emilia approach is a child-led approach, one where the child is seen as a capable, strong, and competent person. According to Stout, 2018, Reggio follows 4 major principles within their approach. These being emergent curriculum, where the approach itself stems from the child's interest and involves communication with the child and their families. In-depth projects, which refers to the projects or experiences introduced to the child, having it be based on the ideas and interests gathered about the child. Representation development. That calls for the presentation of ideas and concepts in multiple forms such as art, drama, music, etc. And collaboration, where the children work together, problem solve, and negotiate, furthering their cognitive development. In Reggio, the educator is there to guide and inspire the children and their developmental minds. But, most importantly, the children learn through the materials and space provided to them. The children in a Reggio-based environment want to learn and are not forced to do anything that they don't want to. The children learn through hands-on experiences and by doing and creating using their imagination and creativity. Just as Dietz and Cashin 2016 stated, instead of fixing children by teaching them to memorize and be obedient, we should be helping them to develop dispositions of caring, fairness, and justice, or how to engage in programs where they have adults who support them in constructing environments that reflect their interests and options for expanding the levels of curiosity. The children learn during the process and not so much the outcome. The children can play and participate in environments that are physically and cognitively stimulating to them. It's all about guidance, support, and inspiration provided by the educator. There are no outlined instructions. But it is important that children's learning and developmental skills are documented. For example, pictures or crafts they created along with their description of it. Plays a vital role in the Reggio Emilia approach, as it not only teaches the child, it innovates and develops their growing minds as well. Now that we got the basis of what the Reggio approach is and its aspects, that leads us to our next point, which is the importance of this approach in early learning and childcare. There are many aspects within this approach that makes it important. But keep in mind as Reggio-based educators, the main focus of this approach and its techniques are reflected towards the child and their interest. With that, here are 5 points in which we feel are outlined within the approach. First being, children are creating and developing their own personalities. Second, children are able to express their thoughts and feelings through play, such as painting, talking while playing with blocks, drawing, acting. Third, children's interest helps them grow and develop physically and cognitively. Fourth, everything is based on the child's interest. And fifth, the classroom, outdoor room, or environment should inspire the child. With all that's been said, the question in mind right now might be, well, what about educators? That brings us to our next point on what the role is for the educator. The role of the educator in Reggio is considered to be a dual role, one being the observer to track and document the growth of the children. They shouldn't be directing a child in what to do, but they should let the child be creative and use their imagination. The educator is there to be a guide, to support, inspire, and to help answer questions when asked. Second, educators are responsible in planning play-based experiences and activities that are open-ended and based on the children's interest, keeping an open mind as dynamics are subject to change, and us as educators must adapt to those changes. Educators' responsibilities are also in constructing the environment in which inspires exploration, appropriation for the children, and feeling of homely. But one aspect the educator should keep in mind is just as the children are developing, so are the educators. They must always self-reflect and learn alongside with the children. Some techniques and ideals that Stout 2018 might have you consider as an educator within Reggio would be organizing the classroom where it supports the child to make thoughtful decisions in what they do, documenting the child's progresses through videos, pictures, portfolios, and recorded diction, and forming a committee with fellow teachers and parents to compare information and adjust to the needs and interests of the children. Now that we have a better feel of what the Reggio Emilia approach is all about, let's talk about what parts of the approach we would use and not use in our practices and why. Starting off with the parts we would use in our practice. The Reggio Emilia has many aspects that are useful to use in our practice. Out of all the parts that Reggio had to offer, two that we would adopt in our personal practice would be organization as a fundamental and the environment as a third teacher. First of all, we chose organization as a fundamental in the classroom because not only will this benefit us in our everyday priorities as educators, but it would help us in creating a routine to make the day run more smoothly. Having a simplistic schedule that clearly lays out the routine for the day and what your goals are in helping to guide and support the children in expanding their interest is key to the success for child learning. It also helps us for communication to the parents so that they know what their child's strengths and weaknesses are and where they are standing developmentally along with any other issues which their child encounters. Organization environmentally through physical appearance also plays a role to the way you present the space. It reflects toward yourself as an educator as well as it instills in being the third teacher for the child. For example, if parents are doing a walkthrough of your space and see that it is not organized or presentable, this might cause them to second guess in enrolling a child to the center, as first impressions leave a big mark. Which brings us to the next practice we would adopt, which is the environment being the third teacher. They still believe that such care is taken in the preparation of the environment that it acts as a third teacher, in reference to Dietz and Cash in 2016. This theory is one to keep in mind because since Reggio is said to be a more child-directed approach, the environment plays a vital role as it sets up to help children learn through play and help them develop their individual learning skills cognitively and socially. The environment also sets to be our third teacher as educators as well, since we are expected to do daily observations to assist with planning through children's play interest, to determine children's strengths and weaknesses, and also to determine where children are at with their developmental skills. Now, let's move along to what we would not use in our practice. Overall, we were intrigued by the majority of the different practices that the Reggio approach had to offer. The one idea that seemed to be a bit of a question mark for us and therefore would cause us to not use in our personal practice would be the idea of not teaching any school curriculum to the children. We believe that it is a good idea to at least introduce the basis of the school curriculum with things such as numbers and letters. This will give the children a great success going into kindergarten and grade school. With that being said, we're not saying they need to be able to do numbers and letters by the time they reach kindergarten, but recognizing it and knowing the mere basis of it would be something to add to Reggio approach that would greatly benefit the children in later years. Within the early learning and childcare field, there is one source in which we should always refer back to and consider as it sets the core foundation and fundamental in the field. This being the Alberta Curriculum Framework, which brings me to the point of how the main ideas in the Alberta Curriculum Framework link and connect to our approach. As the curriculum framework displays an array of main ideas that can relate into Reggio quite effectively, the one main idea that ties directly into Reggio the most is responsive environments, time, space, material, and participation, section 2.4 in the Alberta Curriculum Framework. Reggio Emilia is all about how you present the environment to the children. Do you want the environment inviting, beautiful, creative, and to have the proper materials for the children to explore? Responsive environment and Reggio Emilia portray connections by them both wanting it to be about the child's interest, what they want to learn, and how. It explores the design elements of time, space, material, participation. It is always different through each week. There is new materials for the children to explore and to learn from. They also share their connection with making sure that the children have a constant routine throughout their day. Making sure that they have consistency throughout the day will make the room run smoothly and make sure that the children are engaged in the learning centers of their choice. Children are exploring their imagination, creativity, and decision-making in each center. This gives them the opportunity to go through life skills that they will need. An important thing to make sure with your environment is that it works and flows for the children you have. As the Alberta Curriculum Framework states, environment plays as a third teacher. In most cases, things have to be moved around often to make sure that the centers are in the right spot for the children to learn best in. Reggio also shares a link with the responsive environment with using only natural, recycled materials and loose parts. All of these are key for Reggio because it gives children a better look at what they are using. They are not limited to just one thing that is specific for one outcome of use. For example, using a plastic tube, the children can use it as a spaceship, a tower, a person, a sword, etc. Using loose parts and natural materials gets the children to explore their imagination and creativity. Reggio also uses 100 languages of children stated in the Alberta Curriculum Framework on page 73, that each child is different, and one might know more than the other, and each child is not just helping the educators learn, they are also showing their peers what they know to help them as well. With all things considered, it brings me to my last and final point, which is exemplifying a play-based experience based on our approach. Reggio focuses on making connection to the child's day-to-day life. The learning has a reason and meaning about their natural interest in exploring new materials and using their imagination. Reggio focuses on invitation to play. This means that the children are given materials in each center with a provocation posted on the wall for them. A provocation is a real photo of an example of what the child could do. By having this example for them, it helps guide them rather than the educator telling them exactly what to do and how to do it. They are doing it in the way that they want, and it is different from what the other children have done. For example, we as educators can simply place materials on the table as an act of inspiration for the child to look upon. After materials are set on the table, we could sit back and observe what the child could and would do with the materials. Some may start drawing or painting, using some of the materials to even paint with. Some may take the materials and start building. Some may use the materials in dramatic play. This play-based experience is showing children that they all have their own voice, style of doing things, and that they don't have to be the same as the other children. By doing this, it gives the children confidence in themselves because they are doing it how they want to, and it is never the wrong way. As potential Reggio educators, we must keep in mind that the environment we present, the opportunities we inflict, the observations we make, and the materials we provide are all vital aspects to always refer back to, as they must present endless opportunities for the children and their development. But also, always remember to have fun and enjoy yourself while working in the early learning and childcare, because being a part of the inspiration and experiencing the child grow into their own individual self is something that is truly rewarding and heartwarming. As Vygotsky quoted, "It is through others that we develop into ourselves."